my name is Paco Rivera, and this is the Maximum Sentence channel, where we discuss recent crimes and convictions. Well, today I'm going to discuss multiple women, mostly school employees, mostly teachers, who have been charged with indecent acts with young students, and one who was recently convicted. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. I also want to invite you to have a look at my other channel here on YouTube called Death Row and Executions, where I discuss an upcoming scheduled execution that will happen soon. There will be a link for that as well. Today, I'm going to discuss a topic that is very touchy. And the reason it's so touchy is because there are groups of people that have different opinions about it. I have been researching this the past few months, and I have read about 2,000 comments from various social media sources. And I went through the process of splitting up those comments into 4 separate groups to give you an idea of what people in this country think about female teachers and their inappropriate behavior with students. I'll get into the discussion about the various groups in a bit. First, I want to remind everyone that this topic is also very touchy with YouTube, and there are words that I cannot use if I don't want this video to become shadow banned and nobody gets to see it. So you might notice me using words during my narration that replaces words that most people would use when discussing these cases. I am talking about female teachers that have groomed young boys or young teenagers, in many cases students of the school where that particular teacher worked, and they took liberties with them that is illegal. This act is known as pedophilia. I can't say the whole word, and I can't even show the whole word on the screen. Let's first look at just a few of these cases. In Elmira, New York, 22-year-old school employee Anamaria Milazzo was charged in June of this year with sending photos of herself with no clothes on to a male student of a school who was 14. She was sending those photos over a 3-month period. In Downers Grove, Illinois, also in June of this year, Christina Formella, who was a soccer coach and tutor at a high school, was charged with having an intimate relationship with a male student of the school. He was 15. In that case, the parents of the teen escorted him to the Downers Grove Police Department, where he informed police of the inappropriate activity. According to the police report, there were 52 incidences between January of the year 2023 and September of 2024. Was somebody keeping count that the boy disclosed that exact number? In Waynesville, Missouri, just outside of St. Louis, a 26-year-old mother of 2 and teacher, Hailey Nichelle Clifton-Carmack, was charged with intimately violating a 16-year-old male. This relationship was first reported in December of 2023. In this case, it was actually another student of the school that snitched and provided photographic evidence of the relationship. And the father of the boy, a man named Mark Creighton, was also charged because he knew that his son was having an intimate relationship with the teacher, and he allowed it to continue and didn't report it. A teacher from South Carolina, a 33-year-old named Nicole Callaham, was charged with having a prolonged inappropriate relationship with a student. Now, she was arrested in Illinois 2 years after the relationship ended, so I'm not sure in what state this happened. Anyway, that misconduct began in 2021 when the boy was 15 and continued for about 2 years. Apparently, the boy decided to report the affair after he turned 18 years old. And it happened after his mother was looking through his cell phone and found inappropriate, intimate text messages. So that might be what motivated him to report it. In July of this year, in Middle Township, New Jersey, 34-year-old Laura Caron Also, a teacher was charged with having an indecent relationship with a boy that began in the year 2016 and continued until the year 2020. That's 4 years. And it began when the boy was 11. 2 years into the relationship, Laura Caron became pregnant and gave birth. And we all know who the father was. When that birth happened, he was 13. A substitute teacher here in my adopted home state of North Carolina named Catelyn Schronce, who is 33 years old, in April of this year was charged with statutory indecent assault of a student. Now, the reports are not disclosing the exact age of the victim, only saying that he was under 15. And finally, we have one with a conviction. All the other ones I mentioned, I believe, are still pending trial. A teacher from Texas, Annaleigh Andrews, who is now 26 years old, was arrested in 2023, and in April of this year, 2025, she was found guilty and sentenced to 2 years in prison after being convicted of an improper relationship with a child. That boy was 14. According to the report, Annaleigh Andrews had groomed the child mostly by offering him marijuana. And this is not all of them. There are actually a lot more, but I'll stop here for now and let's discuss what people are saying about these crimes on social media. As I mentioned before, I have read about 2,000 comments from multiple news postings on the various cases on their social media. I sorted them into separate categories and broke them up into 4 different groups. I'm going to discuss these groups in no particular order. So, what happens when these news reports are posted on a news media's social media account? What are the comments? What are the replies to the comments? What are the reactions? Let's begin. The first group I will refer to as the jokesters, because you always have jokesters in comments everywhere you look, right? The jokesters. The main topic of the jokesters is basically teachers did not look like that when I was in school. And you can see here in a few examples. All my teachers looked like the last episode of The Golden Girls. She lives up to her job title of Special Services. Why did all my teachers look like Mrs. Doubtfire? The kid probably learned a lot. All my teachers looked like Janet Reno. All my teachers looked like Dog the Bounty Hunter. All my teachers looked like Aunt B. And I read hundreds of similar comments. You know, I hate to say it, but I personally can relate to this in a way. Now, don't get me wrong. In no way am I saying it's okay for a grown adult woman to have a romantic, intimate relationship with a young student. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is the fact of the matter is that I can relate to those comments because the whole time that I was in school, from kindergarten all the way through high school, every one of my female teachers was either very old or an extremely mean, rough-looking, unattractive woman. I know that doesn't sound good, but I have to be honest with myself. Except one, my 5th grade teacher. Oh my God, she was drop dead gorgeous. And even though I was only 10 years old, I knew what a nice figure was on a woman, and she had that too. She was very young, maybe just 20 or 21 years old, and every boy in my 5th grade class had a crush on her. I know that because I grew up with all those kids into my teenage years, and we would sometimes reminisce about our 5th grade class and that teacher that we had. So we had talked about that in later years. I remember being 10 years old and fantasizing that I will someday marry that teacher. And then one day she spoke to the class about how she had just gotten married right before the start of the school year. And I remember feeling jealous. But going back to what all my other female teachers look like, I had images in my head for many years that they were all like looking at the Wicked Witch of the West. I know that sounds disgraceful, but like I said, I'm trying to be honest here. And it's why I said that I can relate in a way to those comments from the jokesters. Here we see a news report on social media about a man who was recently charged with a pedophilia crime, a male teacher or a coach of the school. And we can see a comment from a male user asking, "Where's all the dudes saying, 'Where were teachers like that when I was in school?' Or is this different somehow?" I'm not sure I understand his point here. Why would any of the jokesters post their memories of the unattractive teachers they had when it's a male being charged? Now, it appears from my glancing at profiles of the jokesters that nearly 100% of them are men. I haven't seen a single female social media user commenting about what teachers look like when they were in school many years ago. There might have been some there, but I didn't see it. As hard as it might be to believe, I would say that the majority of this group probably don't see anything wrong with the teacher student relationship based on their joking comments. The next group of social media users commenting on these news posts, group 2, I call the high fivers. These are, once again, only men about 100% of the time. And the main topic of this group is typically, "What a lucky boy." We are talking about grown men on social media celebrating the young boy's good fortune of having scored with a very attractive older teacher. We'll start with this one. That boy had the time of his life. He was not coerced. He was not frightened. He was not traumatized. He was 13, getting intimacy a lot, and couldn't believe his good fortune. In a word, he is a guy, and a prime example of the difference between boys and girls. Accept it, the difference is real. And then we have these lucky students. Lock me in the same cell 50 times? Lucky kid. As the cops on South Park would say, nice. Lucky teenager. The headline should read, "Luckiest Boy Ever Found." Let's be honest, that's every young teenage boy's fantasy. Some kids have all the fun. I had all the old, ugly teachers. The next group, group 3, I call the disgusted. Despite how you feel about the jokesters and the high fivers, you may be happy to know that this is by far the largest group of people commenting. Now, it's hard to put an exact figure on the math here, but you will find about 40% to 50% of men and about 50% to 60% of women make up this group. And it's safe to say that almost 100% of women commenting, almost all of them, belong to this group of the 4 groups that I will mention. The main topic here being, what a sick and disgusting human being doing that to a child. Or that person should be locked up forever. Or they are attacking the jokesters and the high fivers with replies. Here are some examples. This situation is heartbreaking. We need to do better for our children. Indecent assault is a crime. This is nasty. Is she going to jail? And lastly, group 4, I call the get her help seekers, with the main topic being that adult woman obviously has severe mental or psychological issues and needs treatment. This is probably the smallest group commenting, as I saw a lot of comments from this group, but nothing compared to the other 3 groups. The people in this group are somewhat more empathetic towards the P-file, commenting how that person is very ill or sick and how that person needs help. Sick people. Disgusting and sick behavior. She needs help. Sick behavior. She needs help. While those of this group are just as disgusted by the acts committed by an adult teacher and they understand that it is a crime, they seem to prefer mental health treatment to punishment. There is an excellent report that I saw about what causes women to engage in that criminal behavior. Things such as unmet emotional needs and intimacy issues stemming from current relationship problems or feeling extreme loneliness. Mental health challenges. Female perpetrators of intimate misconduct may have underlying mental health conditions like depression or borderline personality disorder, which could impact their judgment and decision making. One other study that I saw concludes with understanding the psychological factors involved can be helpful in developing more effective prevention and intervention strategies to protect students and hold perpetrators accountable. The many replies that I saw from Group 3, the disgusted, typically directed a lot of their anger with replies to those of Group 1, the jokesters, and to Group 2, the high fivers. And one of those replies is basically, how would you feel if it was your daughter and the teacher was a grown man? And when someone of Group 1 or Group 2 does decide to reply back, they would say that they would be extremely upset if the victim was a girl. And they want to clarify why it is different. That it is different because of the following reasons. When it's a girl who is a minor, history has shown that over time, most of those girls will experience the following. She will deeply regret her involvement. She will feel great shame. She will become severely depressed. And she will often be traumatized by having had her innocence taken. Groups 1 and 2 argue that the great majority of boys, most of them, do not experience any of these situations. There might be a few who do, but they insist that the facts are that most do not, according to them. On the contrary, most will consider himself very lucky, will feel a sense of accomplishment, will continue looking forward to the next opportunity, and they will brag about it. Brag. And that bragging will never end. They will brag about it until they are old and gray, some said, while sitting at a table with other elderly men 40 or 50 years later playing poker. If this analysis on the parts of Groups 1 and 2 are correct, then we have to accept that there are stark differences between the two genders, between young boys and girls that experience an inappropriate romantic, intimate relationship with a grown adult, that boys and girls are affected differently. This is why those groups say that you cannot compare the two genders, adult male with young female, adult female with young male, as being the same, which means that these grown adult men on social media are just going to think of you as an idiot if you ask them, how would you feel if it was your daughter? As far as the law is concerned, and as far as most people are concerned, if I base my statistics on all the comments that I see, there is no difference, which is how it should be seen. The crime is the same. I personally would not want my young teenage son, when he was a teenager, to get his lessons on romantic intimacy from a grown, adult, good-looking female teacher. Not just because it is pedophilia and it is illegal on the part of the adult, I feel it's just wrong. But at the same time, I wonder if I'm being hypocritical. Am I being a hypocrite? I became active at a very young age, and we didn't worry about the consequences back then, which is why I had a son when I was 17 years old. And at the time, us boys, once we discovered it, we didn't think that we were doing anything wrong. We just thought of it as something natural, something normal. It was fun. It felt good, which is why I have to be honest with myself and ask myself, If one of my teachers looked like one of these women pictured here, and that woman came on to me, I probably would have jumped at the opportunity because I didn't know back in the mid 1970s what I know now. I wasn't educated enough to understand the true nature of the situation. I wouldn't have thought about how the woman is committing a crime and could go to jail. I wouldn't have thought about how this woman must be sick or that it is pedophilia and it is wrong. So when I say that I would not want my teenage son, or any young boy for that matter, to engage in this type of activity, yes, maybe I am being a bit hypocritical. And this brings up a question that I have also seen asked in some of these social media posts. Why does this seem to be happening more often lately? Several responses I saw are from people saying that this is nothing new, that this has been going on forever, but that people didn't take it as seriously long ago, especially when it's a young boy. When it's a girl, that was looked into a bit more. But with boys, long ago, it was like nobody cared. I'm sure if a mom found out, she would be extremely angry about it. Most dads, however, probably considered it as their boy just growing up. Once again, the differences of how male and females think. I remember a time when I was 12 years old and we lived in an apartment building. My mother asked me to take out the garbage, and I went downstairs to the sidewalk, lifted the lid from one of the metal trash containers, and I was about to put our garbage bag in there when I saw a magazine lying neatly on top of all the other garbage bags in there. There was a picture of a woman not wearing anything on the cover of that magazine, staring straight up at me. In those times, we called those dirty magazines. Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, one of those. So I picked up the magazine, rolled it up, placed our garbage in the container, and went back up to my room and shut the door. I sat on the bed and began flipping through the pages, and I'm getting an eyeful. About a minute later, my mother came into the room. It's like mothers have a sixth sense for these things. Anyway, my mother walked over to me, ripped the magazine out of my hands, and began yelling like a madwoman. Where did you get this? You're not supposed to be looking at these things at your age. And when I tried to tell her that I didn't know what it was, she cut me off and said, I'm going to tell your father about this when he gets home from work, and he's going to whip your behind. She then stormed out of the room and slammed the door. I spent the next few hours in a panic about the terrible beating I was going to get. And then I hear my father coming in through the front door. And a few minutes later, I heard my mother, with an angry voice, talking to him. About a minute later, I heard his footsteps approaching my bedroom, and my door opened just a little bit. I was trembling by this point. My father stuck his head in and looked at me, and he smiled. He had a smile on his face. He never said a word. He then shut the door and left. I'm telling you, I was completely confused about what was going on. When I was in high school, there was a woman security guard always standing by the door of one of the school's entrances. And she was really, really hot in her tight security guard uniform. She was probably in her early 20s. And all of us at the school saw what obviously looked like boys, usually seniors that were the jocks of the school, flirting with her. These boys were probably 16 or 17 at most. And we all saw the female security guard flirting back with them. And word had spread all over the school about intimate encounters that that woman had with several students because those boys had bragged about it. They bragged. So the whole school knew about it. I find it hard to believe that the school's office didn't hear about it. I'm guessing they all knew, they just didn't care. These encounters are only being taken more seriously now in recent times. It's possible that the onset of the internet, since it began not long ago, and the fact that so many teenagers have cell phones these days has led to increased abuse by pedophiles, finding ways to communicate with them. leading to young people being victimized. And that widespread abuse has resulted in taking these matters more seriously. And I am glad that it is being taken more seriously. It is a crime, and it is wrong. And anyone committing such a crime against innocent children should be held accountable. Please remember to subscribe for more of these true crime stories so that you are alerted when the next one appears. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. I am Paco Rivera. Thank you for watching. Take care, and bye for now.